Stop scrolling, because what's happening right now is not normal and it's affecting you. It begins now, not slowly, not quietly, but with a shift that feels almost undeniable beneath the surface of your life. March 27 marks a moment where something ancient and powerful aligns Saturn, the planet of discipline, karma, responsibility, and structure, comes into alignment with the Sun, the core of identity, purpose, and life force. And when these two forces meet, something inside you is forced to become real. Not imagined, not wished for, real. This is not soft energy. This is not dreamy or emotional or uncertain. This is clarity that cuts through illusion. This is the kind of energy that doesn't ask you what you want. It asks you what you are willing to build, what you are willing to commit to, and what you are finally ready to take responsibility for in your life. Because Saturn does not reward intention alone. Saturn rewards action, consistency, and truth. And when it stands beside the Sun, it shines a light on every area where you have been avoiding your own potential. You may feel it as pressure. You may feel it as a sudden awareness of time passing. You may feel it as a quiet but intense realization that certain patterns, certain habits, certain ways of living can no longer continue. That's not a coincidence. That's alignment. That's the universe holding up a mirror and saying, this is what you've built so far. Now decide what comes next. For some, this will feel heavy because Saturn energy often brings weight. It brings seriousness. It strips away distractions and forces you to see the foundation of your life exactly as it is. If there are cracks, you will see them. If there are weaknesses, they will be revealed. But this is not punishment. This is construction. This is the beginning of something solid, something lasting, something that cannot be easily shaken. And for others, this moment will feel empowering. Because if you have been doing the work, if you have been showing up even when it was difficult, if you have been choosing discipline over comfort, then this alignment becomes a confirmation. It becomes a moment where you realize that what you are building is real, that your efforts are not invisible, that the structure you are creating is beginning to take form in a way that cannot be ignored. There is something almost ancient about this energy. It feels like a checkpoint, like a moment written into time where you are asked to step into a more mature version of yourself. Not the version that dreams endlessly without acting, but the version that takes those dreams and turns them into something tangible, something structured, something that exists beyond imagination. You might notice that your focus sharpens, that distractions lose their appeal, that you suddenly care more about what truly matters and less about what is temporary. That's Saturn working through the Sun, aligning your inner identity with your external responsibilities. It's no longer enough to say who you are, now you must live it. Now you must prove it not to others, but to yourself. This is also a moment of decisions, quiet decisions, powerful decisions. The kind that may not seem dramatic on the outside, but internally shift the entire direction of your life. You may choose to commit to something fully, or you may choose to walk away from something that no longer aligns with your future. Either way, these decisions carry weight, because Saturn ensures that what you choose now has long-term consequences. And that's the key word here, long-term. This is not about quick results. This is not about instant gratification. This is about building something that lasts, something that will still stand years from now, something that reflects who you are becoming, not who you used to be. There may also be moments of solitude during this time, moments where you feel pulled inward, where you reflect deeply on your path, your purpose, your direction. That's not isolation, that's alignment. That's the process of refining your focus, of removing what is unnecessary, of strengthening your inner foundation so that when you move forward, you do so with clarity and strength. And here's the truth, that many don't talk about this kind of energy is not always comfortable. Growth at this level rarely is, because it asks you to let go of excuses, it asks you to stop delaying, it asks you to face reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. But within that, discomfort is power. Within that, honesty is freedom. Because once you see clearly, you can build correctly. This is where responsibility becomes power. Not burden, but power. Because when you take ownership of your life, when you accept your role in shaping your future, you step out of passivity and into creation. You stop waiting for change and you become the one who creates it. March 27 is not just a date, it's a turning point. A moment where structure becomes visible, where discipline becomes necessary, where your identity aligns with your actions in a way that cannot be ignored. And what you choose to do with this moment will echo forward. So feel it. Don't run from it. Don't distract yourself from it. Sit with it. Understand it. Because this is not the end of something, it's the beginning of something far more solid, far more real, and far more aligned with who you are meant to be. And as this energy continues to unfold, something deeper begins to settle within you, a quiet understanding that this is not a moment you can escape, and more importantly, not a moment you should want to escape. Because what is being activated right now is your ability to stand firm in your own life, to hold your ground in your decisions, and to move forward with a level of certainty that doesn't rely on external validation. There is a shift happening between who you were and who you are becoming, and it may feel subtle at first, almost like a whisper in your thoughts, a small voice reminding you that you can no longer go back to old patterns. The things that once felt comfortable may now feel restrictive. The habits that once felt normal may now feel misaligned. This is not confusion, this is evolution. This is you outgrowing a version of yourself that can no longer carry you into your future. Saturn's presence here is relentless, but it is also fair. It does not take without purpose, and it does not demand without offering something greater in return. What it asks from you now is commitment, not temporary motivation, not short bursts of effort, but real commitment, the kind that shows up even on the days when you don't feel like it, the kind that continues even when no one is watching, the kind that builds something brick by brick until one day you look back and realize you've created something unshakable. You may find yourself thinking more seriously about your time, your energy, and where you invest both. There is less tolerance now for distractions that lead nowhere, less patience for things that drain you without giving anything meaningful back. This is the sharpening of your priorities. This is where you begin to understand that your life is not something to be spent carelessly, it is something to be directed with intention. And with that realization comes a kind of power that cannot be easily described. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it is steady. It is the power of knowing that you are capable of building something real, something lasting, something that reflects your true potential rather than your temporary emotions. At the same time, there may be tests, moments where you are pushed to prove that you are serious about the path you claim to be on. These tests are not meant to break you, they are meant to reveal you, to show you where you still hesitate, where you still doubt, where you still hold back. And once you see those areas clearly, you are given a choice. You can either step forward and grow, or remain where you are and repeat the same cycles. But something about this alignment makes repeating the past feel almost impossible, because once you become aware, truly aware, you cannot unknow it. Once you see the truth of your situation, you cannot pretend it isn't there, and that awareness becomes the driving force behind your next steps. There is also a deeper layer to this moment that goes beyond external structure. It is about internal alignment. It is about becoming the kind of person who naturally lives in discipline, who naturally follows through, who naturally builds rather than delays. This is not about forcing yourself into a rigid mold, it is about discovering a version of yourself that is already capable of this level of strength and consistency. And as you move through this energy, you may begin to notice something surprising. The more responsibility you take, the lighter you actually feel. The more structure you create, the more freedom you experience. Because true freedom does not come from avoiding responsibility, it comes from mastering it. It comes from knowing that your life is in your hands, that your direction is yours to choose, and that your actions are aligned with your purpose. This is where things start to become real. Not imagined progress, not temporary changes, but real measurable shifts in how you live, how you think, and how you move forward. This is where discipline turns into results. This is where consistency turns into confidence. This is where your identity begins to match the life you are building. And as this continues, there will come a moment, a quiet moment, where you realize that something has changed. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but deeply. You are no longer waiting for the right time. You are no longer questioning your direction in the same way. You are no longer held back by the same doubts. You have stepped into a new level of yourself, one that is grounded, focused, and ready to build something that lasts. This is the true power of this alignment. It is not about a single day. It is about the shift it creates within you, the momentum it builds, and the foundation it helps you establish. What begins now does not end quickly. It continues, it grows, it strengthens over time. So as you move forward from this moment, remember this feeling. Remember this clarity. Remember this sense of responsibility, not as a burden, but as a gift, because you are being given the opportunity to create something real, something meaningful, something that reflects the highest version of who you are. And once you reach that point where going back is no longer an option, something inside you becomes incredibly still, but at the same time, incredibly powerful. It's a silence that isn't empty, it's focused. It's the kind of inner quiet where decisions are no longer chaotic, where emotions no longer control your direction, and where your actions begin to come from a place of certainty rather than reaction. This is where Saturn's true influence begins to reveal itself in a deeper way, not just in what you do, but in who you are becoming. Because this energy is not only about building external structure, it is about becoming the structure. Becoming the kind of person who doesn't break under pressure, who doesn't fold when things become difficult, who doesn't abandon their path when results are not immediate. There is a strengthening happening within you now, a kind of inner discipline that doesn't need motivation to exist. You begin to understand that motivation is temporary, but structure is permanent. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline stays. And in this realization, you unlock a new level of control over your life. You may notice that you are less reactive to things that once disturbed you. Situations that would have pulled you into emotional chaos may now feel distant, almost irrelevant. That's not because you don't care, it's because you have gained perspective. You are beginning to see what truly matters and what doesn't, and that clarity becomes your protection. At the same time, there is a closing happening, not in a negative sense, but in a necessary one. Certain doors are quietly shutting. Certain connections, certain distractions, certain paths that once seemed possible are no longer available to you in the same way, and this can feel uncomfortable if you try to hold on to them. But if you allow it, if you trust the process, you will realize that these closures are creating space for something stronger, something more aligned, something that matches the level you are stepping into. This is the part of the journey where patience becomes essential. Because what you are building now is not meant to appear overnight. It is meant to grow steadily, to develop depth, to become something that cannot be easily shaken or taken away. And that kind of growth requires time. It requires consistency. It requires trust in the process, even when you cannot yet see the full results. There may be moments where you question it, moments where you wonder if the effort is worth it, if the path you are on is leading where you hope it will. And in those moments, Saturn does not give you emotional reassurance, it gives you something stronger. It gives you evidence through your actions. It reminds you that every step you take, every decision you make, every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are reinforcing the foundation you are building. And slowly, almost without realizing it, your confidence begins to shift. Not the loud, external kind that seeks validation, but a quiet, internal confidence that comes from knowing you are doing what needs to be done. You no longer need constant confirmation from others. You no longer need to prove yourself in the same way, because you can feel it within you are aligned. This is where your identity transforms in a way that cannot be undone. You are no longer someone who hopes for change. You are someone who creates it. You are no longer waiting for the right moment. You are the one who defines when the moment begins. And that shift changes everything. As this alignment continues to ripple through your life, you will start to see the results, not just internally, but externally as well. Opportunities may begin to align with your efforts. Situations may begin to reflect the structure you have created within yourself. And what once felt distant or impossible may start to feel within reach, not because of luck, but because of the foundation you have built. And this is the truth that many overlook. This kind of energy does not just change your present, it reshapes your future. The decisions you make now, the habits you build now, the standards you set now, they do not disappear. They compound, they grow, they become the framework of your life moving forward. So this moment, this alignment, this shift, it is not something small, it is not something temporary, it is a turning point that defines the direction you are heading in for a long time to come. And as you stand in this energy, there is one final realization that begins to emerge. You understand that the power you were searching for outside of yourself was never really there. It was always in your ability to choose, to commit, to build, and to continue even when it was difficult. And as you fully step into that realization, something irreversible locks into place within you. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it is final. A decision without words. A shift without announcement. You no longer negotiate with your distractions. You no longer entertain the versions of yourself that kept you small, uncertain, or inconsistent. There is a line now clear, defined, and you know you've crossed it. This is where your life begins to feel different in a way that others may not immediately understand. From the outside, everything might look the same, but internally, everything has changed. Your standards have changed. Your tolerance has changed. Your focus has changed. And because of that, your reality will begin to change as well. You are no longer pulled in every direction. You are directed. You are no longer overwhelmed by possibilities. You are anchored in purpose. And that anchoring creates a kind of momentum that cannot be easily stopped, because it is no longer dependent on how you feel in the moment. It is built on what you have decided. There is also a new relationship with time that begins to form here. You start to see time not as something to spend, but as something to invest. Every hour, every decision, every action begins to carry weight. Not in a stressful way, but in a meaningful way. You understand now that what you do repeatedly becomes what you create permanently, and that awareness changes how you move through your days. You may even notice that you become more selective with your energy. Conversations that once felt normal may now feel draining. Environments that once felt comfortable may now feel limiting. This is not disconnection, it is refinement. You are aligning yourself with what supports your growth and naturally stepping away from what does not. And with that refinement comes a deeper sense of self-respect. Because every time you choose discipline, every time you follow through, every time you honor your commitments, you are proving something to yourself. You are building trust with yourself. And that is one of the most powerful forms of confidence you can have. There will still be challenges. That does not disappear. But the way you meet those challenges is no longer the same. You don't avoid them. You don't collapse under them. You face them directly, steadily, with a mindset that is focused on solutions rather than escape. And in doing so, you realize that you are far more capable than you once believed. This is where resilience becomes natural, not forced, not performed, but real. You don't need to remind yourself to stay strong, you simply are. Because strength is no longer something you try to access, it is something you have built through consistent action. And as days turn into weeks, and weeks into months, the structure you are creating begins to show itself more clearly. Results begin to appear. Not always in the way you expected, not always in a straight line, but in undeniable ways. Progress that you can feel, stability that you can rely on, growth that cannot be taken away from you because you created it yourself. This is the reward of this alignment. Not instant gratification, but lasting transformation. Not temporary excitement, but permanent evolution. You are no longer chasing something outside of you, you are becoming the source of what you were searching for. And perhaps the most powerful part of all of this is that you begin to trust yourself completely. Not partially, not conditionally, but fully. You trust your decisions. You trust your direction. You trust your ability to handle whatever comes next. And that trust removes fear in a way that nothing else can. And now, as you continue walking forward with this new awareness, something even deeper begins to unfold, a realization that this journey is not about reaching a final destination, but about becoming someone who is always capable of rising to the next level. The path does not end here. In many ways, it has only just begun. Because once you have built this kind of foundation within yourself, life starts to respond differently. Challenges don't disappear, but they arrive at a level that matches your strength. Opportunities don't just appear randomly, they align with the structure you've created. And slowly, almost quietly, you begin to see that your external world is reflecting your internal discipline. There is a rhythm now to your life, a steady, grounded movement forward. You are no longer rushing, no longer forcing things to happen before they are ready. You understand timing in a way you didn't before. You understand that everything meaningful takes time to build, and because of that, you are willing to stay consistent even when the results are still forming beneath the surface. And this is where many people fall away, but not you, because you've crossed that line. You've felt what it means to commit beyond emotion, beyond temporary motivation. You've experienced the shift from wanting something to actually building it. And once you've experienced that, there is no satisfaction in going back to a life of hesitation or inconsistency. There is also a new level of awareness that continues to grow within you. You begin to notice patterns more clearly, both in yourself and in the world around you. You see how actions create outcomes. You see how discipline shapes reality. You see how small, consistent choices compound into something powerful over time. And this awareness gives you an edge, a kind of quiet intelligence that guides your decisions without confusion. At times, you may look back at your past self and almost not recognize who you used to be. The doubts, the delays, the uncertainty, it all feels distant now. Not because it never existed, but because you are no longer living in that space. You've moved beyond it. You've grown through it. And in doing so, you've created distance between who you were and who you are now. But this is not a moment of arrogance. It's a moment of understanding. Because you realize that every step of that journey was necessary. Every mistake, every delay, every lesson, it all contributed to the strength you now carry. And instead of rejecting your past, you integrate it. You use it as a reminder of how far you've come and why you cannot go back. As this continues, there will be moments of expansion, moments where life opens up in ways that feel almost unexpected. Doors that once seemed closed may begin to open. Paths that once felt unclear may begin to make sense. But the difference now is that you are ready for those moments. You are prepared. You have the structure to sustain what comes into your life. And that is the key: sustainability. It's not just about achieving something, it's about maintaining it, growing it, strengthening it over time. And that is exactly what this energy has been preparing you for. Not just to reach a new level, but to hold it, to live in it, to build from it. You are no longer chasing temporary highs. You are creating lasting stability. And in that stability, there is peace. Not a passive peace, but an active one. A peace that comes from knowing you are aligned, you are focused, and you are moving in the right direction. A peace that does not get shaken easily because it is rooted in something real. And as you stand in this space, there is one final shift that completes this transformation. You stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And you start asking, what can I build next? Your mindset shifts from fear of failure to vision of creation. You are no longer looking for reasons to hesitate, you're looking for ways to expand. And as this new chapter continues to unfold, you begin to understand something that changes everything. You were never meant to live a life of uncertainty and hesitation. You were meant to build, to create, to shape your reality with clarity and purpose. This alignment, this moment, this shift, it was not sluchiny. It was a trigger, a catalyst, a point in time that awakened something within you that had always been there, waiting for the right moment to rise. This is your moment. Don't ignore it, because what you choose now will shape everything that comes next.